Hey guys, Scott here, and today I want to talk about the Forged in Fog chapter, which is a bit of a mild train wreck, unfortunately. It's not like a full train wreck where everyone dies, but it's more like the train stops suddenly and everyone like spills their coffee on their expensive suits and they're angry that they spent money on their train ticket. I've been riding the whole positivity wave for behavior, honestly, for the past few months here because they did really well with Wesker. He's my favorite killer in the game. I think it exemplifies everything that's good with design, other than the tunneling issue off the hook, which I do think they should address. But for the most part, I think they did great with him, and I was happy being positive about the game. But man, they really screwed up a lot of stuff in this chapter, and there's no way to really defend it. So if you don't want to listen to any complaining about them screwing stuff up, I suggest stop watching now. But unfortunately, this is stuff I think we do need to talk about because it's pretty bad. So it's not just the Knight. The Knight did release in a pretty sorry state. We saw the issues on the PTB. We tested this a bunch. It was very abundantly clear that the efficient method of playing Knight was going to be very uninteresting and the only real viable way to do it. But they've also broken things like map generation, adding new fat shaming spots everywhere. There's a number of bugs, and they keep ruining the older realms for some reason. So I just want to go over all this stuff. The Knight is changed slightly from the PTB. They did buff some aspects of his kit, but all they did was buff the aspects of his kit that reward you for playing in this drop the Knight immediately playstyle. They didn't do anything to address the fact that the intended way to play, which is set out a patrol path, is just simply not a good idea. So they did nothing to address that at all, which means everyone is just going to be dropping their Knight immediately, unless you're in a corner of the map, in which case you can try cutting people up. But for the most part, you just have to drop it immediately. And the whole issue is when you drop it, survivors are going to immediately start running, and they can run directly into your green orb. If they do, the AI is still never going to catch up with you if you just hold forward. So it ends up being a net loss every single time, again, unless you're in the corner of the map. So they did nothing to address any of that issue. So the Knight himself is still a disappointment, and nothing really about that was changed for the better. However, he shipped with all the bugs that he had on the PTB. There were a number of issues on the PTB that we talked about and addressed, and they didn't fix any of them. The first one is the sound staying really loudly when you use your power. It just stays in your ear and is like numbingly loud. So that didn't get fixed. There's also this issue where if you get stunned while you're channeling your power, you retain the movement speed of your Phantom on your killer because it treats it as the same thing, apparently. That didn't get fixed. There's a new bug that I didn't even know about, where Make Your Choice and Devour Hope take the position of your Phantom, so you can just face camp people with Devour Hope and Make Your Choice and just sit out of range with your Phantom. As soon as someone saves, you cancel your power. If they have Make Your Choice, you one-shot them. So he's a god tier camper now because he's broken. And there are issues where you can actually get stunned while using your power, and you just simply can't use your power for the rest of the entire match. He's just really, really buggy, unfortunately. The AI is just as bugged as it used to be. That really didn't get addressed or fixed at all. So yeah, he's just sort of a buggy mess right now. And that's just the Knight alone. That's not even addressing any of the other changes that weren't even documented. I didn't even know about these because I wasn't really looking for them in the PTB, but now it's pretty obvious that they have ruined a lot of the good maps. So I don't know what their obsession is with ruining the Macmillan and Autohaven realms, which for the most part are universally accepted as some of the most balanced maps in the game. And yet they keep changing them for some reason. They're like the only maps in the game that don't need to change. It's so funny. There are so many giant problems in a lot of these maps, but the Macmillan and Autohaven ones are not among that list, and yet those are the only ones they keep changing. So last patch, they added these new weird tiles like this one to Autohaven that basically don't have any use at all. They're useless, and they take up a slot of a jungle gym. So they make maps like Wretched Chop, which are already pretty killer-sided, even more killer-sided, because the only tiles that could spawn there can now spawn these extremely shitty pallets that have like just no distance whatsoever. So that is what they did last patch. They added a bunch of these little shitty random loops that were unnecessary. And now this patch on Macmillan and Autohaven, they've added just a bunch of just trees and rocks and debris and shit everywhere. And not only is this really bad for killers that require a line of sight, which is like half of the killers in the game, be it Huntress or Demogorgon or Wesker or Billy or any of these killers that require line of sight. Just adding a bunch of shit randomly is going to make that even worse. Blight too, obviously. Not only does that make that worse for those killers, but the additional debris and stuff everywhere, like I said, it can chain together with tiles and make these fat shaming spots. If you're not aware what a fat shaming spot is, it is a spot that the killer cannot fit through, but the survivors can fit through. And what this acts like is basically an infinite window. You can run through it as a survivor with no animation, but the killer has to go around it. So it turns random shitty tiles into basically infinites because the killer can't proceed further, but the survivor can. So they just keep messing up my favorite realms in the game when they're the only realms in the game that do not need to be changed. I don't know why they keep doing this. Again, there are so many other problematic maps that they're not touching, but they keep tinkering with the only maps that, in my opinion, don't need any touching. So, yeah, I don't know what the whole design process is there, but to me, it makes no sense. Other than that, I will say the whole survivor bots thing is great. I'll give credit where credit is due. I do like that a lot. And I do really like the perks of this new chapter. I think the perks are really cool. I do think Nowhere to Hide is either working as not intended or is simply too strong, because I thought when you kicked a generator, it revealed everyone within 24 meters, but apparently it reveals anyone within your radius, which means after you kick that, you have 5 seconds of additional reading. So basically, every time you kick a gen and you just walk forward, you have like 50 meters of terror radius or 50 meters of aura reading, which is, I think, a little too much for just every time you kick a generator. So I think it should be based off of the radius of the generator itself, not the actual killer, because I didn't realize it tracks with you. You do that with Lethal Pursuer too, and it's like you just can like see half the map every time you kick a gen. It's insane. But yeah, there are a bunch of other issues too. Like the night still has several other bugs, but I mean, overall, they just, I think, really screwed up with this chapter. They didn't take any of the feedback from the PTB. They made the worst part of the killer even stronger to incentivize the very boring playstyle. I don't see very many people happy with the killer at all. There are a couple of people that like the aesthetics of the killer, and that is enough for them, and that's fine and all, and I'm happy for you if you enjoy that. But yeah, they really they did not do so well with this chapter, and it's very disappointing to see. So I just wanted to sad rant about this. But thanks for watching. See ya.